Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town. Think about it, and you think about these seasons of life that we're in, and you think about the guests that have come through. 70 episodes, like tip the hat, right? Think about that. And you think about just like where we're at in this season, where our guests are at, how they kind of let us in on that adventure. And it's something to sit back and reflect on. It's something to, and that's why I love every once in a while, kick the guests out. Let's make some meaning, right? Catch up. It's almost like one of these, you get the free app, right? It's called a light, right? Like, you don't want to pay for the app. So it's basically like the free version. And that's what this episode is. It's like Richest Men in Town Light. We'll hang out for 45 minutes or so, give our guests a little insight into things that we're dealing with in the seasons. But yeah, just a lot going on, a lot to appreciate.
Yeah, and I feel like over the last, even if all we did was rewind 5 or 6 episodes, right, and think about the last guest that we had. I think it's, you and I kind of talked about this, but it's timely for us to just maybe have an episode with nobody, so we can all just kind of stop for a second and take a breath, because there was some stuff,
let it percolate, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let it wash over us a little bit, because it was pretty gnarly, man. Good gnarly, right?
Oh, it's so good,
crazy stuff.
It's so good. I think I'm gonna throw this out to you. Man, I loved how Jason Parrott ended last week. So he talked about being on the couch, right? What does it mean to be a rich man, Jason?
Yeah.
What does it mean to be the richest man in town? I'm on the couch, I'm reading the book with my 2 kids, and I kind of have this out-of-body experience, and I look at this, and I wish I could just take a picture of this and go to my, my 8-year-old self and say, man, look at this. Right? Yeah. Look at this. And I just think, man, how cool would that be? And like, what would you take back to that 18-year-old self? Or I even think like getting married, it's just been amazing, Tyler, to see where my kids are at. Kids are not perfect, right? Not even close. But it's almost like the things we've desired in our hearts for our kids are happening.
Yeah, 100%.
For good or bad, right? Sometimes it's like, dang it, I kind of wish I would have backed off on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I wanted an independent daughter. And now I got this daughter that's on the other side of the country. And it's like, hey, there's a hurricane. I kind of hope she made it through it all right.
Yeah, totally. It's wild, man. Time is an interesting thing. But
speaking of time, this Saturday is 20 years since September 11th, 2001.
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
You let that wash over you.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. It's interesting because I talked to my kids about it, and it's like almost like Pearl Harbor was, like for me, they're like, yeah, that's crazy that happened, but I can remember watching it happen live on TV, and thinking like, what in the world is going on, and you're like in it. So I think I still when I see those images, I still have that kind of sickening feeling in my stomach of how crazy and sad that is. But my kids are just like, yeah, that's sad and crazy, but there's a disconnect, right? Yeah, total disconnect, man.
There's a disconnect. And that idea of like, we'll never forget.
Yeah.
You know how hard that is to make that happen? We talk about remembering on the show all the time. like those that lived it, but how do the people that haven't lived it remember it?
Yeah, it's interesting. A friend of yours and mine actually sent me a text today. Brian Beverly, he was on the show, and he he served as a air marshal post 9/11, and he was talking about how, like, in the airport in Boston, right? I think it was Boston, right? Where those flights took off from, that they have flags hanging over those gates where those flights took off from. And, somebody was stopping and taking a picture of the flags, and people were asking him why he was taking a picture. And that person was explaining it's in honor of those flights that took off from those gates. And people had no idea, right? They'd completely forgot about it because there's no other signage or anything else, just a flag hanging over that gate. And his point was, we tend to forget,
Wow. Well, I was talking to my sister-in-law, who was telling me a little bit about their trip to New York City. It's talked about, Broadway shows and all the things to see. And she just said, you have no idea that tribute. You have no idea how powerful that is there in the city, the Twin Towers, and the way that they have memorialized the lives of people lost, playing recordings of messages.
Yeah, we were there when we did our trip back east, and as a family, and certainly has a feeling of hallowed ground, for sure. It's pretty sad. It's pretty devastating, but we got through it, right? And maybe
and I think
there's
we're
lots
safer,
of lessons learned, right?
I think we're safer, stronger for it.
Yeah.
And I think that the phrase from Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, right? The idea that those people haven't died in vain, and that we'll remember them, and that we'll try to learn the lessons from that day. Boy, I just remember, like you said, seeing it. So I was in the classroom, and back then I was like Mr. in the classroom at 5 a.m. getting ready.
Right.
That's crazy. But so I was not around a TV all day. So I was pegged to NPR, and we were getting the reports, and students were talking about it and things. And I went home and watched it. And it's like the brain couldn't process like what I was seeing,
Yeah, that I totally can relate to that feeling. I remember standing in the living room watching it as it was happening, getting ready to walk out the door. And, the first reports was that it was just a plane accident, right? That's mind-boggling, man. Mind-boggling stuff.
Yeah.
Hard to
Yeah, they were gut punches. First plane, first tower, second tower, first tower goes down.
Yeah, it was
like, oh man.
All crazy.
Yeah. So September 11th, 2001, we're never going to forget that. And we're going to do everything that we can to help those that are younger than us, that maybe even weren't alive.
Yeah.
To make sure that they know that. So, hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I've had some kind of ahas with this question. I'm just going to throw it out there. Kind of monk manual prompt kind of style.
I like it. Yeah.
So, Tyler Gould, what is one thing that someone looking at your life from the outside would say doesn't make sense? Let me share this. Let me share one with you.
Okay, go for it.
I don't know if I've told you this, but a month ago, the YMCA called me.
Okay.
Like a courtesy call. Hey, is this Mike Freeman? Yeah, this is Mike Freeman. Hey, this is so-and-so from the YMCA. Hey, guys. Hey, we're just calling to let you know we're still here.
Okay. That's nice.
Okay. That's cool. It's like, well, we noticed your paid membership, and we haven't seen you in a while. So I have actually had a conversation with Kelly.
Yeah.
We got a little something coming up, a little trip, and I've decided that I will not be fat.
All right.
Doing a little something in February.
Okay.
Week. and I'm not going to be fat when I go on that trip.
I love it.
I've been thinking about that phone call, and somebody looking on the outside would be like, why is Freeman dropping cabbage every month and never even using that service? So I told Kelly, like, hey, I get up every morning and yeah, there's exercise equipment in the garage, but I got a place. And if I get up in the morning and I'm in the house, a lot of different things can happen. If I get up in the morning and go to the YMCA, one thing can happen.
You become a swimmer.
So
Right.
I have not brought the goggles yet, but we're on a little streak. I'm not going to.
I love it, man.
But we're on a little streak of consecutive days at the YMCA. So
I am rooting you on.
I almost took a picture, honestly, and sent it to you and David after one day on the treadmill.
I love it,
took a picture of my shoes and be like, boys, we're back running.
Go. I love that. I'm a supporter of that 100%, man.
Tyler Gould, you can't outrun the fork, right?
That's very true, man.
I still gotta do some work. I
was just telling someone today, we were having a conversation because I'm in a similar process as you, just changing diets and habits and blah blah blah. And I was telling him, I said, what I realized today is that almost everything that I enjoy involves food on some level. Like I was at work today, I was thinking, tonight I think I want to drive out to the beach and get rolled tacos with the kids at this joint. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. So yeah, man.
This episode is brought to you by Minimax, because every Thursday night, 2-for-1 pizzas.
Oh man.
And there was a moment of perfection where I'm sitting in my house and I'm eating pizza. Football's on TV.
Yeah.
Tom, you're texting me about the upcoming richest men in town, and Tom Brady throws a pick,
which is good.
And I'm like,
both of those things are so good.
I'm like, is this heaven?
Yes, right.
This moment, the only thing missing from that moment was a glass of eggnog, and then I would have been like, okay, perfect.
It's too funny, man.
Yeah. So anything from the outside in your life that just doesn't make sense right now, Tyler Gould?
I mean, there's so much, right? I mean, I think that, I mean, the funny thing is, I think that for me, there's from the inside things that are happening that I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, man. Someone sent me a text message, not too long ago, and they said, they were kind of, I think there was an attempt to make me feel good about how busy my life is. They said, you're so busy. I can't believe how are you handling all this? And sort of made me panic for a second. I read that whole list of stuff they were rattling off, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, that is a lot. But then
who's that crazy?
Yeah. Who's that crazy person to do all those things? But then I thought, I sent him a text back. I said, tell me where this line's from, right? We are super busy, but who's got it better than us? Nobody, and that's how I feel. Sometimes I feel like maybe the thing that doesn't make sense is how blessed I am in the midst of craziness, and that doesn't mean things are perfect. Things are far from it, but yeah.
But it kind of goes to that season, right? You're going to look back and be like, man. And I think one of the things that, as we think about the guests on this podcast, one of the lessons that I'm walking away from every week is the power of looking back.
Yeah.
That's where we connect dots. That's where we see God's hand in things.
Well, and I don't want to get to that place. And we've talked about this before, but I can vividly remember having a gaggle of toddlers in my house, and thinking to myself, like, when they get to be X age, it'll be great because we can do these things. Right. And missing out on the things that maybe are happening right there in the moment. So that's the intentionality for me, is like, enjoy it. Right. You're in it. You might as well enjoy it.
Hey, can I share a thought with you too from the scriptures that ties into this like concept of place, right? This thinking. So let's take a look at two verses. So you got your scriptures handy, Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to 2 Nephi 4. Come on, right?
Come on now.
Nephi's lament, his father passed away, and he's just in that. He's in that wrestle. He's in that
reflective.
Yeah, he's deep in that reflective process, right?
Yeah.
But I love this idea of something that actually came out of conversations that we've had with guests before. But I want to read verse 28. Awake, my soul, no longer droop in sin. Rejoice, O my heart, and give place no more for the enemy of my soul. Right? Put a finger there. Give place no more for the enemy of my soul. And then let's jump into Alma 32:27. So Nephi here is like, man, why am I setting a table? Why am I setting a placemat at the table for the enemy? And we do that all the time, right? We do that with habits. We do that with our own script, with things we think about or tell ourselves. And then a different kind of place. So Alma 32, verse 27. And this is Alma teaching. He says, but behold, if ye will awake and arouse your faculties, even to an experiment upon my words, and exercise a particle of faith, yea, even if you can do no more than desire to believe, let this desire work in you, even until you believe in a manner that you can give a place for a portion of my words. I just think, man, if I could stop giving place for the enemy of my soul, and I can start giving place for a portion of God's word in my life, like you were talking about, just super busy, right? What does that look like? Maybe it's a verse.
Yeah.
Maybe it's me turning the radio off in the car. Maybe it's me listening to a conference address on the way to work. But if I can do those two things, turn down the place that I'm preparing for the enemy in my soul, and like those dials we talked about, turn up the place that I can give in my life for a portion of God's word, man, is it that easy, right? It might be that easy.
I think it is that easy. I mean, if you look at 32:27, right?
Oh, so beautiful. I think it's cool how both of them use awake.
But it's just that verse in particular is all about process, right? It doesn't say adopt it all. It doesn't say begin, start doing everything. It says just this little piece, and then it builds. And that's sort of that's and that's where we're at, right? I mean, that's the whole point of this show.
Yeah, but that it builds idea. I've been thinking. I've heard of these. I've heard somebody actually refer to hope as, Michael Burke's come to us and talked to us about hope.
Right.
We ask all of our guests, a lot of our guests, one of our favorite questions is, what gives you hope these days? I heard somebody describe hope as a Velcro virtue.
Interesting.
And you talk about that process and it builds.
Yeah.
And the idea is where there is hope, other things come with it.
Yeah.
Right. If we, as we exercise faith and have hope in Jesus Christ and a better world on the right-hand side of God with Jesus Christ and like him, man, as you have that in your life, good things just attach to that, right? Maybe we're a little more forgiving. Maybe we're a little more loving to our wives. Maybe we're a better father. Maybe we're a better friend. And I just love that idea of a Velcro virtue. I got to probably look that up in the show notes and give somebody some credit, because that's definitely not my thought. But man, when I heard it, and in that process of building it up, that's the snowball effect.
Right. Well, and I think too, it sort of speaks to Jason Parrott's comment towards the end of his time with us, where he talked about, life is not perfect, but life can be wonderful. Right. And so, I think there's a correlation of hope in there, that that even in the middle of busy, even in the middle of chaos, even in the middle of struggle, there's a lot of good things. And that's been, to me, that's been one of the benefits of this show for me. I mean, look, we're lucky, right? Each week we get to sit down with someone and hear what the journey looks like. And it reminds me that, hey, you know, stuff happens, man. And a lot of that stuff that happens is unpleasant, is completely unpleasant. But the end message that we get from from every single person is that, man, you know, it's like that. It's that first Nephi 17, you know, life was so brutal, but how great were the blessings of the Lord, right? I mean, that's sort of the message that we get from everybody.
Well, and how great are the relationships with the people that we have?
Yeah.
Right. So here in schools in California, I mean, people are listening all over the place. So it's probably crazy wherever our listeners are tuning in, right? Yeah. Things are a little crazy again. But, you know, I had a conversation with somebody today at work, and I just said, you know, with all the craziness that's out there, that's out of our control, the one thing we can control is the relationship we have.
Yeah.
Right? The way we show up for each other, the way we support one another. Like sometimes I'm cool if the only thing that gets people out of bed is the thought of coming to work with me. Right?
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like, hey, man, work's kind of crazy, but if you love the people that you're with, if you love the people that you're in the trenches with, you know, and so to listeners that are out there that might be struggling with what's in their control, what isn't in their control, that relationship piece, it's always in your control. And I think some of that is with the understanding that relationships are not 50-50.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's 100% in.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if the other person met you 100% in, but I'm all in. And that thing you can control.
And that's how you develop that 100%, you know, duality of relationships, right? You've got to be, you got to be all in and not with the have no expectation.
And who said that? We had a guest.
Yeah.
We had a guest that went there, right? Because we get into that relationship and the marriage. And it's like, how crazy is that, thinking that I'm going to be 100% all in, standing there vulnerable, and maybe the person meets me with their 100.
Yeah.
And maybe not.
And you know what? And that's okay. I mean, I think that, you know, that's been a topic of discussion in our house lately with the kids, is just that idea that one of the only things we really can control is how we react to things, right? You know, it's that Charles Swindoll quote, right? The only string we can play is attitude, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then the other thing too is with my 12-year-old in particular, we've been having lots of conversations about trying to see things through other people's eyes, right? To eliminate judgment from us and try to get behind, stand where they're standing and see the world through their eyes for a second. You know, just to change how we.
That's hard.
It's hard, but it's a skill that requires constant practice, right? And a constant reminder. And I think that.
Yeah, that reminds me of that little kid. I don't even know the credit, but there's a video of a little, I think he's an East Indian kid, and he's like, what do you practice? What do you practice? Do you practice joy in your life?
Well,
do you practice,
right?
Or do you practice complaining?
Yeah.
Right? Because whatever you practice, that's what you're gonna get good at. And practicing seeing things through other people's perspectives, man. That perspective taking, that's part of the constructive conversation that just needs to be had.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I mean, to move things forward. And I feel like, you know, Tim Ferriss would always, on his podcast, he would always ask, one of his famous questions was, if you could have a billboard for the whole world to see right now, you know, what would it say?
Tired and stressed. I mean, is that?
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, I think everyone right now would have exclamation points on the end of things. Like, I think everyone's just yelling. And
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's listening.
No, there's not a whole lot of listening going on these days. But I think through snapshots, it's frustrating, right? We watch and we go, man, nobody listens to anybody. But you know what, Mike Freeman, what gives me hope these days?
What gives you hope these days, Tom?
Is sitting down with a different person every week that listens, that is empathetic, that is intentional, that is struggling to overcome and showing me how to do it. Right. I mean, yeah, like when I'm feeling like I want to put the billboard up that just says stressed and tired, we sit down with someone like, Mr. Rick and and about what that might really mean, and see someone who's really pushing through it. So, yeah, I mean,
and think about that. Like, just put those two thoughts together, right? Put Mr. Rick's experiences that he shared with us in his time on our show, and that conversation you're having with your 12-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Like, hey, maybe understand that people's birth stories are different.
Yeah, right.
Right. The people's identity, right? People's walk, the way that people have been treated, might actually lead to the way they're treating other people.
100%, right?
Like you see Mr. Rick now with just a man on fire. He's a man with a purpose. He's doing amazing things in the lives of people that he's working with. But his was a process to get there.
Absolutely. And that's a cool thing, right? So we can have people that are willing to sit down and say, look, let me walk you through this process and what it looked like. And then we can apply some of those things. I mean, it's life is interesting, but life is good. And as crazy as things seem through, news and everything else, right? People are good, man. That's the thing. People are good.
People are good. The surf's good.
Yeah.
The mountains are still there.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there are some aspects that, I mean, sometimes we bring in the poison. Sometimes we sit down and we consume 3 or 4 hours of someone else's thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some caution there sometimes. I think unplugging would be a good billboard message,
It would be.
To me though, I would say my billboard right now, and it's conveyed in the lives of so many of our guests, but there's just so much good that comes on the other side of not giving up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think a message of don't give up, man, right now.
Let's go Chad Richards, man.
I met Chad Richards. I have in my life, in my social media, I'm able to keep connections with some former students, and I've got the female equivalent of Chad Richards right now. She's going through it. And remember how Chad was saying, man, I just had somebody rip me a new one right in front of everyone, right? Made me feel dumb. And then that 4th year med student came over and said, don't worry, that same doctor did the same thing to me and I learned from it. Right.
Yeah. Right.
But I had a former student reach out to me on Messenger the other night and saying, I'm not dumb for wanting to be a doctor. Right. It's like, no, you're not dumb. She's like, well, right now, the people in this program, they got me feeling pretty dumb. I was like, let me tell you a story. And I told her Chad's story, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's great, it's just like, don't give up. Like these things will actually make you better.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there's lots of good stuff, and I love that message of don't give up, right?
And I think that the challenge too, and one of the things that keeps coming up is the way we get better, the way our weaknesses become strengths is practice, right? God, all-knowing, he gives us opportunities to practice the things that we're not good at. And it's maddening to us sometimes.
Yeah.
that's how we get good.
Well, and I you know, you mentioned the idea of remember, you know, and I was thinking about our time with Gus Koenig, a few episodes back, right? And he talked about being taught this message of you know, casting out the devil, you know,
Cast
and
him
how,
out.
right, and how he had thought for the longest time that meant from other people, you know. And then in a quiet moment, he has this realization that, hey, maybe that means like I need to cast some stuff out of me, you know. And we've talked about overcoming, like eliminating debris, right, and all those things. I just love that idea of like being reflective. And you know, sometimes we want to have the answer for the person next to us, but really maybe it's better that we just have the answer for us, right?
Yeah, it's so much easier to give that other person advice. Right?
Yeah.
And I got to warn you, because I have a podcast, I think sometimes I'm really good at giving advice.
You are pretty good at it, though.
Unsolicited, even. Those are my favorite.
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
oh yeah,
no.
let me help you with that. Let me help
I'm
you with
very
that.
good at that too. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been a great couple of weeks, a great couple of last months on the richest men in town, and we're just always grateful and appreciative for our guests. Number one, this is nothing without them. It's nothing without their authentic show up and the way they tell their stories to our listeners, right? Thank you for reaching out to us, letting us know what this show does. I know that you got some love recently from Jason's podcast, and you know, I really just think that the idea that someone is living their life and we're playing as part of some of the soundtrack, that's humbling.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I would say this too, Mike. I mean, to our listeners, I mean, we've been over the last several months, we've had people reach out to us and say, hey, you really need to talk to this person, right? And we've had some of those guests on the show, and they've been phenomenal. And so I would just say, if you are sitting next to someone, or you're talking to someone at work, and you feel like that person story needs to be told, let us know. We'd love to talk to them. I think, you know, the thing that I've learned over the course of 70 episodes is that life is amazing and it's miraculous. Even when we think we are in the most mundane, boring stage of our life, miracles are happening. And we have 70 episodes that prove that. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think that one thing, it's not all doom and gloom out there, but the backdrop does allow for some contrast, right? Yeah. When things are looking kind of bleak, when things are looking kind of dark, I think we would all agree that we are surrounded by rich men and women. We are surrounded by people that are overcoming odds. We are surrounded by people that refuse to give up, that are exercising faith, that may be flat on their face sometimes, but they're not done, right? They're not out. And I think that if you have people like that, drop us a line, right? Jump on Instagram, jump on our Facebook. Let us know. We've got some exciting guests. You know, here we are 70 episodes in, and I'm about to put somebody on the show that was one of my original guys. It's just taken us this long.
Well, yeah, it's funny
get things
you say
together
that.
And get them on.
Yeah, you and me both. It's interesting. I think that you know, that's where we can say we're grateful to the pioneers of RMIT that have come on and sort of paved the way for people to feel like they can come on here, have a conversation with a couple of clowns like you and I, and really say something that's going to impact some people, and be vulnerable about their lives. I mean, it's been
you know, and we talk about how much that rivers, you know, move things in our lives and how further downstream we are. But it's fun to see the lives of our former guests and the things that are happening. We've had an opportunity to bring some people back, and you know, recently we had a couple of people on, and it was like, hey, was it everything you thought it would be? You know? You know, but I mean, I just love seeing they're not done. Their stories were told. They're not done. They're doing some amazing things, and God's still good, right? God's still good in their lives. And it's fun to keep in touch.
Yeah, I love it, man. It's good.
Let's keep going, huh?
Let's keep going. Look, the calendar is full, and our guests. We've got some great stuff coming up, and I'm excited for our listeners to take a breath this week. Right, let Jason and our other guests wash over you a little bit, and we're coming back next week with more of the richest men and women, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's go do another 70.
Why not?
Okay.
Hey, it's fun, Mike. Have a good night.
Always, man. Hey,
right,
go
man.
Dodgers.
Go Dodgers, man.
Do you have an early Super Bowl prediction?
Oh,
I got football. Football's on TV. Here we go.
I know. It's Super Bowl time, man.
I don't need a homer. Call.
No.
But just put it on wax and make sure it's for the record.
Yeah.
Who's winning?
Who's winning it? I'm gonna have to go with Miami's gonna win it this year, man. Yeah. They're gonna do it, dude. Right before they trade Tua, they're gonna do it.
Since it's crazy night on the richest men in town.
Yeah. What do you got?
I'll go with Cleveland.
Oh man, Cleveland's actually it could happen. I mean, it won't happen because it's Cleveland, but you know
they'll find the banana peel. No offense, Cleveland. No offense.
All right. So what about give me your baseball pick?
Oh man, it's gonna be out of the NL West, and it's probably gonna be. I gotta probably go with your boys. I think the Dodgers. I think the Giants are amazing.
Yeah,
but I keep feeling like that story's gonna run out of gas, and quite frankly, it will break my heart to see Chris Bryant in a World Series wearing a Giants uniform. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking Dodgers, Yankees, man. Can we make this happen? That would be crazy.
Oh, that's about as classic as you can get.
About as classic as it gets. So.
And shout out to number 2, Derek Jeter, going in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, good stuff. Good times.
All right, man. Be good.
All right, you too, man.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.